I'm delighted to be with you again this afternoon. And today we will be flying across the pond to the south of England in Kent and joining Steven Devine and Kate Semmens, who will be faculty for us next summer, conducting, musically directing Dido and Aeneas, and Kate teaching early music voice to all of our students. I've only had the opportunity to meet Steven and Kate through Zoom or through phone conversations, but they fit in so beautifully to the NUOVA family, and we're so excited to share this afternoon this beautiful concert of early music and to get to know them a little bit so that when they come to Canada next year, we will be ready to welcome them with open arms and to celebrate their enormous talent. So, off to Kent to meet Steven and Kate, who are going to tell you the story of how they have found a way to create a venue during this lockdown of COVID-19. Enjoy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to be joining you for this afternoon's concert. My name is Steven Devine and this is Kate Semmens. We were due to be with you in Canada working with the students of Opera NUOVA, helping them to prepare for their performance of Purcell's Dido and Aeneas and James Rolfe's Aeneas and Dido.
Stephen was due to be conducting and I was due to be working with the singers on Baroque style and ornamentation. And tonight should have been the final performance in the culmination of their work. And so it's with a nod to the theme of Purcell that we have set this afternoon's programme, which it's our very great pleasure to perform for you.
The impact of coronavirus has spread far and wide and obviously has resulted in Opera NUOVA having to make some serious decisions about this year's course. And we're delighted that due to the progressive thinking of Kim, that some thread of continuity in music making has continued. And we're really delighted to be a part of this. The lockdown resulting from the virus has affected us all in different ways, and globally we're all at different stages in our emergence.
And here, in our little corner in the countryside outside London, as with everyone else, we've been restricted to music making within our own home. Now, this creates its own issues, getting to know and work with audio and visual equipment that we would normally entrust to the hand of skilled professionals. We have a very beautiful camera which will add the visual element to our concert, but it doesn't take segments that are any longer than 20 minutes, and at that, in fact, 20 minutes and 20 seconds to be precise. So we found that it's safest to record in segments so that we don't run the risk of the camera turning off mid-piece.
This means that you'll find that there's a natural break between sets of songs, hopefully in the same way one might stop for applause. We've also found limitations in the performing space of our home. Our house was built nearly 500 years ago in 1566, earlier even than the music we're performing this afternoon. It's a typical timber-framed house of the region and period, perfect for housing our menagerie of keyboard instruments, and a real good place for hunkering down when we return from performances, and where we create and work through new ideas.
However, the ceilings are extremely low, meaning that as well as limitations on acoustics, there are also visual limitations in trying to set up any longer shot, particularly to get in a soprano and a keyboard instrument. And we're finding that it's a difficult space to work with for performance. So, in this time of new possibilities, we decided that a little lateral thinking was required. And so, we headed off to see if there might just be another possible alternative.
Okay, let's go find ourselves a venue.
Our first thought was the local church, just a couple of minutes' walk away from where we live. Churches are always loved by musicians as good performance spaces. Our local church is very simple and very sweet. But sadly not for use at this time. Ours is locked under government order, possibly to be opened in 2 weeks' time. So, time to think again. So we carried on walking behind the church and across the railway line. Now, if you look carefully, in the distance you can make out the beautiful red tiled roofs which are part of a farm owned by our friend Peter Hall. So off we set, and faced with this beautiful sight, we couldn't resist a Julie Andrews moment. These funnel-shaped roofs are the tops of oast houses where the hops are laid out and dried to make beer. All this beautiful land belongs to the farm, and our greatest pleasure during this time has been walking along the footpaths and watching the fields change. And also watching the orchards move from spring blossom to summer fruit. Kent is known as the Garden of England, and it is particularly known for its production of hops for beer. The oast houses, with their distinctive funnel-shaped roofs, are a feature of the landscape here, and we are heading for Peter's Oast to see if it'll make a good space for the concert. Here you can see the house martins nesting in the eaves. This top floor is where we are planning to record, just behind their nests. These birds look determined to be a part of the sound. They will provide a nice background atmosphere for the concert. Although this is very much a working farm, hops are now no longer the main feature here. So this space is now used for fabulous and various functions, including music, and you can see the old organ from the local church at one end. You can also see the setup of all the machinery for working the hops. Well, this will make a lovely venue. So, welcome to our concert. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us in our concert today on early English song. We've chosen songs from the 17th and 18th century that we feel very well reflect the way that composers started to really set English words so very finely. And of course, where to begin but Henry Purcell, and that's where we've started today with probably the most recognisable song that you might notice on our programme today, Music for a While. In a moment, Stephen's just about to play a piece by John Blow, and we thought it would be interesting for Stephen to explain a little bit about the relationship between John Blow and Henry Purcell.
Thank you very much. Yes, John Blow was the organist at Westminster Abbey, and as a young chorister he knew Henry Purcell, and he was so impressed with Henry Purcell's musical ability that he actually stepped aside from his role as organist and gave the job to Henry Purcell. Unfortunately, Purcell didn't live that long, so when he died, Blow stepped back into that role. But there's such a fantastic relationship between the two men. They clearly respected each other very highly. I'm going to play you a piece called Mortlack's Ground by Blow, and this is a repetitive harmonic structure over which the most fantastic sort of textures and harmonies are woven. It's quite a groovy piece, this.
Our next piece is a cantata by John Stanley. John Stanley is not one of the better known composers of this period. His dates are 1712 to 1786. John Stanley is very unusual because he was blind very early, and he was son to parents who were tradesmen. So it was not an automatic path that he would find himself being able to make a livelihood in music, but he did, and this is what makes him rather special. We rather love this cantata. It's a bit of a gem, and it's a bit unusual because unlike most arias and cantatas of this period that follow the form of recit and then aria, recit and aria, this actually doesn't begin with a recit, it begins with the aria, and the recit that explains it all happens in the middle. Teach me Venus every
This is the second sonata by Thomas Arndt from a set of 6 published in 1756. And it's remarkable, firstly for its key, E minor. There was very little music written in E minor at that time, and it gives it a real sort of melancholy pathos, which is quite unique, certainly in this set of 6, but actually from most of the other keyboard repertoire at this time. It's very charming, very cantabile.
Our next piece is by Nicholas Lanier. Nicholas Lanier lived from 1588 to 1666, and he was a great favourite in the courts of the kings and became the master of the king's music for King Charles I. When the revolution came and King Charles I was beheaded, Nicholas Lanier obviously lost his job and went off to live in the Netherlands. When the monarchy was restored and King Charles II was brought back to the throne, they brought Nicholas Lanier back and reinstated him as Master of the King's Music. He only lived for a further 6 years after this because he was rather old by this stage, but there was some feeling of need of continuity and to restore what had been. Nicholas Lanier is very important because he was really driving a new change in English style. And here we see a real beauty in the way that he starts to really set the words in accordance with the syntax of the sentence. So we get a musical language that's new. This is a very beautiful piece. It's based on a ground, but we think that it reflects some of that idea of word emphasis rather nicely.
our last sequence, we return to the music of Dr. John Blow, the organist at Westminster Abbey who so admired and was so generous to Henry Purcell. This is, the second piece is a song based on a ground bass that again shows all the things that Kate was talking about, this wonderful mastery of being able to use the language and the harmony and the music all as a combined whole to create a beautifully expressive piece based on the ground bass, so the bass sort of remains the same, but this wonderful inflected melodic line across the top. I'm going to preface it with one of his little keyboard miniatures as an air from the 6th Suite. These are just a charming collection of music for keyboard that also show what a skilled player he must have been. It's been a real pleasure for us to join you in your living rooms or wherever you're watching this, and we feel very proud that we can share our music with you. So thank you so much for inviting us to join you. We hope you've enjoyed it. And we're just sorry we can't do this in person. This is what we thrive for, making music in a live context. So we hope that it's not too long before we can do it and we can all meet and make music together again. Thank you.